So, as as the vast majority, if not all, of wrestling fans know that Hulk Hogan died last Thursday. It's been a week, and his legacy is very complicated because of what he said, or the racial slurs that he said 10 years ago that were leaked 10 years ago. Well, he said it in, I think, 2007, when during, I think, his son Nick's legal issues. But regardless of his legacy, you can't deny everything he did for the business. He was the reason people tuned into the WWF in the 80s and into WCW in the 90s. He was the reason WCW was even put on the map. And my first wrestling pay-per-view was WrestleMania 18. And his match with The Rock is one of the greatest matches of all ever. The crowd was into it, and yeah, even though Hogan was the heel, he was getting cheered like crazy. It was like a hero's welcome. And Hogan's death was one of the saddest in wrestling history. It's up there with like Eddie Guerrero, Brody Lee. I'm not going to say Chris Benoit, or Owen. Also add Brody Lee or Owen Hart to the former list. While Chris Benoit's was tragic, his was perhaps the most heinous of them all. There's been a lot to list, but this one's definitely up there because of the mark he had, and the tributes the tribute video on Raw I thought was really well done. And I'm not a WWE guy, but I appreciate but they had 3 10-bell salutes on all their shows. SmackDown last week, Raw and NXT this week. And AEW did if they want to do it their own way by having Tony Schiavone mention him on Collision last Saturday, and that's the way to do it. I mean, they wanted to do it their way. WWE wanted to do it their way. There's no right or wrong way in acknowledging and paying tribute to a wrestler who has died. Yeah. Whether it's an in-memory graphic that that sometimes happens at the start of the show, or a 10-bell salute. Everyone's unique in their own way. And I mean, even back in WCW when Gorilla Monsoon died, WCW still paid tribute because Bobby Heenan wanted to do it, even though Gorilla never worked for WCW. And although the only, when wrestlers like Test and Umaga died, all they really got were mentions on the website, which is still something. They never got mentioned on TV or anything. No in-memory graphic at the start of the show. But just, at least it was acknowledged. But I just want to say thank you, Hulkster, for all your contributions to the business, and it left a mark that will forever be etched. Without him, pro wrestling would not be here. Yeah, that's how big it was. He was marketable. He was appearing on magazines, had his own cartoon, everything. That should forever be remembered. And despite his problems with his personal life, his divorce from his first wife and his all his other scandals, those are just relatively those were minor in comparison to what he did in the ring, and what he did in the ring, in the business in general. But yeah. And, he made mistakes like every other human does. He wasn't perfect. And he deserves forgiveness. He acknowledged he's screwed up. And I mean, I'm not defending any of his stuff, He made mistakes or bad choices, wherever you call them. And, people calling him out, it's like, this had nothing to do with you. So even if you have strong opinions about that stuff, it's important to understand and forgive. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Rest in peace, Hulkster. The wrestling world will forever miss you, brother. Out.